All right, stick around on Off the Bench. We will talk New Orleans Saints as the Saints are in the news right now for Drew Brees and his injury, as it was reported yesterday by Ed Werder over at ESPN that Brees had suffered a punctured lung and fractured ribs in the second quarter of Sunday's game versus San Francisco as he was pounced on by Javon Kinlaw, the rookie out of South Carolina, which looked like a brutal hit just by getting up. It didn't look illegal. It just looked brutal by the
Was that Kinlaw? Wow.
by the way that it just looked on television.
What's interesting about that, Jordy, if you listen to that right there, you might have thought that all 5 ribs were broken in that hit. But that's where, to me, this gets especially crazy, is that that's not the case. Because on that hit, the doctors say that his 2 right ribs broke and then punctured his lung. But T-Bob, what about the other 3 broken ribs, right? Well, apparently doctors believe that those 3 ribs on the left side were actually broken in that Tampa Bay game. And that just because his body's so beat up and there was so much swelling that they did not show up on an x-ray. Wow. And that's when he got the CAT scan yesterday, they were like, oh, boy, oops. Actually, it's very clear. You also have 3 fractured ribs on the left side of your body. So he entered that game with a shoulder injury that we know has been bothering him to the point of causing extreme pain and having him on the injury list for 2 weeks. And then he also entered that game probably feeling like, think about it. That's what a master of pain management and just like overcoming, just what a master of toughness Drew Brees is. He entered Sunday's game against the Bucs with 3 broken ribs on the left side of his body and had no idea. Or excuse me, Sunday's game against the Niners with 3 broken ribs on the left side of his body and had no clue. Then he gets hit, breaks the other 2 ribs, punctures his lung. What does he do? He goes back out there for a 2-minute drive, and he plays well. He goes into Brees 2-minute mode. He throws a touch. Think about this. Think about how bad your ribs hurt. How bad. Remember, we talked about, you went through the back stuff here before Oshner got you right. The core, right? Anything you do hurts. This man fumbled that snap on that touchdown throw, bent over, picked it up, and then threw a touchdown to Alvin Kamara. He had the big 3rd and 3 conversion. The screen pass. Imagine being in that much pain and having to run a screen pass where the literal design of the play is to let free rushers come right at you, and yet it was perfect touch, perfectly executed. The man is a man's man, like way tougher than you obviously know he's tough. He's playing football at 38 years old, playing that position. So much tougher than I ever could have fathomed. And everything
He's
that he
41,
said,
bro.
everything, yeah, 38. What I say, everything that he said after the game now makes so much more sense when he talks about it being an accumulation. It literally was. Like, his body is just completely shattering here. And this is a question that we explored yesterday. And I think it has a lot of merit, which is simply like, is it worth it now? Because some people are saying optimistically you could be back in 2 to 3 weeks. Chill out on that. Is it worth it? When you look at the next 4 games especially, where it is
All winnable.
Yes, it is Falcons, Eagles, Falcons, Eagles, right? I mean, you could go 3-1 in that stretch even without Drew Brees. It is worth it, in my opinion, to give him like 5 weeks, 6 weeks, however long it needs, get him fully healthy. Maybe you have to sacrifice the 1 seed, but you'll still make the playoffs, right? If you're winning, try to get him fully healthy and then have a fully healthy Brees entering the playoffs. Like when he missed those 5 games last year, that's actually one of the reasons why he was so strong down the stretch. But yeah, so I mean, my main takeaway from all of this, though, is just like, I've never been a Brees doubter, right? I didn't know that I could kind of respect this man any harder or cheer for this man any harder. And here I learned that on top of everything else, he's just one of the toughest people in the NFL.
I have not doubted Brees' skill. I've just kind of been not as much as a believer as many have been along the way. On Sunday, he stamped it. I mean, his toughness. I mean, the fact that he played those last 2 drives with 5 broken ribs and a punctured lung or a
and he was going to
collapsed
go
lung.
back out. He didn't pull himself out of the game
to the start of the second half.
Like right where they were.
I mean, he obviously went through halftime kind of thinking, I'm going to do this, and then went back out to warm up for the second half and thought to himself, and the way that Peyton presented it was like, I don't give my team the best chance to win.
Yes.
Type
Yes.
statement. It wasn't like, I can't do this
because he couldn't breathe.
Right.
Like, that's what finally stopped him. He was like, I'm just having trouble breathing. Yeah, Drew, you have a punctured lung. And then he sat there on the sideline in full pads the entire time and watched the game with his helmet on. I mean, it's it's really tough for me as a normal person that like wakes up and I'm like, oh, my knees hurt. I don't know about today. I might have to take it easy today. Like it's really tough for me to fathom being in just that you can have this level of toughness. And don't come at me with like pain meds or anything else like that. I get that, but it's still, you don't know how hard it is. It is still incredibly tough to do what you saw Drew Brees do on Sunday. And so, yeah, man, nothing but the best for my captain. I hope that he heals well and gets ready for this final push. Like I said, I think the Saints need to navigate these next 4 games without him. And then let's kind of retake stock of where we're at.
All-Star Toyota brings you OTB Daily here. Remember, online at All-Star Toyota of Baton Rouge.com. They've got great brand-new car selection. They've also got a great selection of pre-owned and certified inventory for you to choose from. If you stop in and see them on the corner of Goodwood and Airline, where they've been since 2005, you can shop all the inventory there. Aaron Piku and his crew ready to get you into a brand-new make and model this morning or at any point today. Stop in if you are a part of the All-Star family for your service call today. Stop in and see Mr. Tommy Wagaspack over at All-Star Toyota, All-Star Toyota of Baton Rouge.com. So Sean Payton was speaking a little bit yesterday as the hit on Brees is leaving him into a position where he is going to be on the IR and be out for a couple of weeks. So what's next at the quarterback position?
I wouldn't project or answer that in any way. I wouldn't. We'll see how this week unfolds.
Here he was talking about Winston's performance versus San Francisco.
Yeah, I thought he did a good job. I thought there were some challenges I mentioned in the post-game conference that aside from the quarterback injury, we had a tight end and a receiver, and so there were a handful of things watching the film that we just got to clean up.
Who's going to start on Sunday?
Sean, I remember last year when Drew was injured in Seattle, you didn't name a starting quarterback until late into the week.
That'll be the case this week, too. And also, none of it benefits us by announcing that player earlier than later.
Peyton yesterday on his conference call.
It's
right.
Not hard
he is right. He's right.
But it's also not hard. I mean, like, I don't think they gain a competitive advantage.
No, that's
right?
Right.
The world knows that James is going to start. But my deal is, I think we're hearing a little bit of frustration from Payton because he's like, damn, now I got to customize this whole game plan. Like I gotta work even harder this week to try to make this thing work and come up with a system that's gonna promote Winston's strengths.
Defensively, the Saints were flying around the field on Sunday. Here he was talking about Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who was making plays. Do we know his status? He was banged up late in that game as well, and Demario Davis.
Those guys both played well. In both cases, both of those guys had one of their better games. And after the first drive, I thought progressively we got better and better defensively.
Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, we talked to Jeff Duncan yesterday, and he said that Gardner-Johnson said he was fine after the game. He was walking around the sideline and stuff. So it seems like that unofficial reporting. But we think he's okay.
He is the closest to the Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu type player that I have seen. I'm not comparing the two, but just his ability to get into the backfield, blitz off the edge, guard the pass, just his versatility is a little bit reminding of that type of game.
Well, and especially in Sunday's game plan, right,
yeah.
Where they were clearly Dennis Allen, and I think I tweeted this after the first drive, which was that Dennis Allen was clearly prioritizing kind of manning up and getting pressure on Mullins and forcing Mullins to decision points, and he was going to make Nick Mullins beat that rush. And Shanahan in the play calling and Mullins did good early on, but you knew eventually they were going to fall under that tide. And so, yeah, they were adding Chauncey Gardner-Johnson into the rush constantly, confusing him, attacking Mullins. Like I said, force bad quarterbacks to make decisions, right? Don't let them choose the battleground from which they make decisions on. You force them into decision points, and good things will happen. They may beat you a couple times. It may get you a couple times, but on the whole, you will win.
Ed Ogeron next.
Off the bench with Kalana and T-Bob.